Like most writers, I don't like to repeat myself, but when it comes to teaching fearless writing, I frequently do, and I'm okay with that. That's because the answer to most questions writers come to me with is almost always the same. So whether it's why am I blocked? Why can't I find the time to write? Why is writing so hard? Why can't, why do I feel like I have no talent? The answer is almost always the same because in some way you are wondering what people think about your stuff. You are more concerned with what other people think than what you think. And the key to opening the door to your unique genius is forgetting to care what people think and starting to care what you think, what you're interested in, what turns you on. When all the focus is on that, that's what frees up your genius. But we're writers, we're artists, and so a lot of our attention naturally goes to what people think of our stuff. When we want to sell books, we think about that's what people like it, they buy it, and reviews and with editors, we like when people like our stuff. We don't like when people don't. And yet, when we're writing, particularly when we're writing, we can't worry about what people think of our stuff, which is why when I'm coaching clients, often the first assignment I give them, if they're having some sort of trouble getting into the flow, writing regularly, finding the time to write, feeling like they're no good, often the first assignment I give them is this. I'm like, look, I'd like you to try to write every day, but I don't want you to think about how much you write or how many pages you get or any of that stuff for now. For the first week, all I want you to do, and this is an exercise you can do, and I recommend it if you're having any of the kind of problems I described. For that first week, just pay attention to how often your mind goes to what other people think of it. And as soon as, and notice that when it does, how it feels. You will notice that as soon as your mind goes to asking questions like, is it good enough? Is there a point to this? Where is this going? What will people think? Any thought like that, you will feel this powerlessness in you will feel your power, I should say, drain out. You will feel like a failure, usually because you're asking a question you can't answer, which is how do I please other people? You will feel uninspired. You will feel blocked. And all because you are focusing on what people think of your stuff. And so for that first week, I encourage a lot of my clients to just pay attention to what they're doing when they sit down and being as conscious with their mind and focusing only on the story and not on trying to be good enough, just on the story. And for a lot of the clients, this is a new practice. In other words, they're used to practicing their craft. They're used to practicing dialogue and sentence structure and stories, but they're not used to practicing focusing in the right way when they write. It's just a practice. At some point, you learned to care what people think about you. You probably learned it early, but that was a practice. So it's just a matter of introducing a new practice, which is learning to focus on just the story and not what other people think. And you will know the difference because of how good it feels when you're focusing on the story compared to how bad it feels when you're focusing on other people. That's the practice. So I recommend it to you if you're feeling a little stuck, if you're feeling blocked, if you're feeling like you're not good enough. Give yourself about a week to say, for this week, I'm going to write, but the point is not the writing. The point is my attention. I'm really going to, before I sit down, I'm going to be aware of what I'm doing with my mind. Am I ever wondering, is this good enough? Is my mind going out to the reader in any way, or is it just on the story? Because once you get lost in the story, it's pretty easy to do, but first you have to get lost in it. And first you have to deliberately often choose not to focus on them. Thing about practice is until you know to practice it, you can't practice it. Until you realize it's a thing to practice, you can't practice it. So give yourself that gift if you think you need it. Sit down, and when you write, at least for a week or two, only focus on how you feel when you're writing. Only focus on where your mind is going. That's the real discipline of writing. Once you have that, the rest gets much easier in certain ways. But if you don't have that in place, if your mind wanders to the audience and the reader as if you're not in charge of it, if it just wanders out there, it gets very hard. Take charge of it. Notice it. Call it back. You're in charge of your mind ultimately, if you're aware of it. And writing is all about thinking on purpose, being deliberate with your attention. So, as deliberate as you are with your story, be that deliberate with your own mind as you sit down to tell that story. Yeah, that's fearless writing, boys and girls. That's what it is. Yeah. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And if you don't want to miss anything, hit subscribe. That's what you got to do. And if you like it, say so. I love to hear from you. So, till next week, this is Bill Kenower. Stay fearless.